to Focus today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Very perfect timing, and so delighted that he's giving us the time. We welcome back Leighton Grey. He's the host of the Grey Matter podcast that's now shown on the Canada's largest Christian network up there, the Miracle Channel. His book, 50 Essays, entitled Leftist Lies, Laws, and Liberties, will be released a little bit later this year. Leighton is also the CEO of the Alberta Prosperity Project and was named one of the top 50 lawyers in Canada in 2023 by the Canadian Lawyer Society. He's a proud Canadian, conservative, tireless advocate for restoration of civil liberties granted to all of us by God and the rule of law, in that order. He does have a website, returntoreason.com. Returntoreason.com, and there's a picture of the landing page. Leighton, my friend, good to see you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Barry. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. All right. You, among all the other things I just said about you, you're a prophet. The last time I had you on, you said that Prime Minister Trudeau would be gone by Valentine's Day.
Yes, and Christmas came a little bit earlier than Valentine's this year. So really, it's not hard. It wasn't hard to predict if you watch things closely, but ironically, January 6th is going to be a more auspicious day for Canadians than it is for Americans. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit giddy, but you know, this is a man, his resignation, this is a man who in March of 2017 called Christians the worst part of Canadian society. And since then, we've had hundreds of churches burn with not a single investigation, not a single prosecution, not a single conviction. And so he actually proves a famous meme that came onto the internet from G. Michael Hopp. You've probably heard this one, Perry, that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Well, Justin Trudeau has been the weak man, weak intellectually, weak ethically, and especially weak spiritually. And he's created hard times for Canadians. We've never been less free. We've never been less prosperous. We've never been less united. We've never been less proud of our country than we have been under 9.5 years of Justin Trudeau's authoritarian Marxist regime. And his resignation is a signal to us that the job is not done, but that his plan to create in Canada a post-nation state, a Marxist utopia, that it's failing, and that we've won a significant battle by forcing his resignation. When I say we, I mean the people of Canada, people who have vilified him and castigated him in the streets. He could not even walk in the streets of Canada without a significant security detail, probably larger than the one that Donald Trump has. And this is unprecedented for a Canadian Prime Minister, and it's for good reason. He's an awful man. He's an odious man. He's a rank narcissist, and I just don't have anything good to say about him. The only good thing I can say about him is that he finally resigned. I don't believe that, when I've said this before in your program, I don't think that this was his decision. I think this was done at the behest of his masters, who are the globalists who have tried to destroy America and are working very hard on the UK and Australia and Canada. And I think they just found out that the metrics were simply that the Liberals could not win another election in Canada. They're at an historic unpopularity in 157 years of their party. They've never been this unpopular. And there's simply no way that they could possibly win an election that's coming later this year with Justin Trudeau as their leader. And that's really the only reason why he's resigned. And by the way, he's stated his intention to resign. He hasn't quite left office. He did something very, very unethical and very bad for the country. And that is that he prorogued Parliament, which is essentially he shut down government in American parlance until the end of March the 24th. And of course, this is a very crucial time for Canadians right now. We're locked in a sort of a trade fracas with the United States that has been precipitated really by Justin Trudeau, out of necessity by Donald Trump. And praise God for Donald Trump, because I believe that he has, to a large degree, forced this resignation, which I think will be good for Canada and good for the Western world. But proroguing Parliament means none of the business of government is going to get done during a very crucial time. It does not benefit Canadians at all. It only benefits Justin Trudeau and his party and buys them time to sort of lick their wounds and prepare for an upcoming election.
Wow. There's a lot there. What do you think was the straw that broke the camel's back?
Without question, I think that, I mean, let's face it, Justin Trudeau had a bromance with Barack Obama. They supported each other openly in their various elections. Trudeau backed Mr. Obama and also Mr. Biden in previous elections, spoke out publicly. He actually said laughably that other leaders in the world should talk to him about how to deal with Donald Trump. And then, of course, typical transactional Donald Trump, Justin Trudeau was summoned to Mar-a-Lago before Christmas, and I believe he was told, pardon the pun, that the Communist Party in Canada was over and that Justin Trudeau would have to get on board with MAGA and with getting back to doing business, the proper business of Canadian and American relations. And Justin Trudeau was not ready, willing, or prepared to do that. In fact, I don't think he was free to do that because I think he's a globalist puppet. I believe he's a microphone for a message. In fact, I don't believe that. I know that. That's tangibly true. This, to any standard of evidence, it's beyond a reasonable doubt that that is true. There isn't a single piece of legislation that's been passed in the 9 years that Justin Trudeau was our leader, which did not signify that he was a puppet for globalist masters, who are really just the face, the facade of the CCP, which is attacking American hegemony in the world, all around the world. And I think Donald Trump realizes this. He put enormous pressure on the Canadian Prime Minister over this trade tariffs thing, and of course, Donald Trump has not let off his foot off the gas. Yesterday, he was again talking about Canada becoming the 51st state within the whether or not Canada is an independent nation or not. I think Donald Trump, what he's really saying is, look, Canada and the United States have to be allies. We're stronger together. We have a shared history, culturally, in terms of religion, of history of free speech. It goes all the way back to Great Britain. Indeed, you could trace it all the way back to the Old Testament if you wanted to. And for Canada and the U.S. to be at odds on things like trade and over, caretaking our borders is really ridiculous. We've got to get together and really work together as allies. I think that's what Donald Trump is really saying. And like most things that he says, he's right.
Do you think members of the Liberal Party realize that the unpopularity of Trudeau has wounded them as well?
Oh, definitely. I think what you have, and anytime you have a leader like Trudeau, who is really just a personality, and his stock in trade is that he was able to turn the trick of winning 3 elections in 6 years. Now, we know that he had a lot of help from the Chinese, but all the members of his party are basically have been riding in his slipstream, riding in his coattails. And of course, their success, their ability to hold on to their seats is directly connected to, Justin Trudeau's sachet, his charisma as an electable political figure. And once he lost that mystique, he lost his stock in trade, and he lost their erstwhile loyalty. I don't think any of them are particularly loyal to him or the things that he speaks about. They just want to have their butts in the seats in the House of Commons. And I think that no matter what they do between now and the next election, they are going to be swept out of office in the most massive turnover that has ever happened in Canadian parliamentary history.
Okay, so Leighton, help us get a handle on this. The pause button's been pushed on your government until March. The election's in October. Does that basically say that Trudeau's still prime minister until October?
He's a lame duck prime minister, much the way Joe Biden has been in the United States. Although, unfortunately for Canada, things are less certain here. The people in your country know that Donald Trump is going to become the president on January 20th. For Canadians, it's not quite as clear as that. What really should have happened if things moved as they ought to is Justin Trudeau should have resigned immediately. He should have gone to our Governor General, who is the King's figurehead, because Canada is still a constitutional monarchy. and gone to the Governor General and asked her to dissolve his government and trigger an election. That's what should have happened. That's what Canadians are calling for. But that did not happen. And really, that's what Canada needs. Canada needs a national referendum on Justin Trudeau and his government in the same way that Americans had on the Biden administration in your country in November of last year. That's forthcoming. It would have been much better for the health of the country in every way if we had that election sooner than later. But Canadians are hoping against hope that at least in October, we'll have an opportunity to sweep these Liberals out of government. But of course, they're going to turn every trick, and they've learned a lot about cheating in elections from the Chinese and from the Democrats in your country. We know there's been very, very close association with the Democrats, coordination with the Democrats in the United States in terms of the Liberals, election plans, and organizations like George Soros and the Tides Foundation have been very, very active in Canada for many years, and they've done the same type of work in Canada that they have in the United States in terms of impacting local elections.
So the way he handled his resignation suggests that he basically spit in the eye of the citizens, and he may have heightened the disdain that no matter what, they're going to do a sweeping reform in October.
Well, I think you make a very astute point, and you've really captured this man's personality. He does not love his country, and he certainly has no love for Canadians. He has behaved as sort of a prince. And I think, again, coming back to Donald Trump, when he was asked why he's running for president, he said, well, he loves his country. He loves the people that he's representing, and he doesn't think that anybody who doesn't feel that way should be running for public office. And again, he's right. Justin Trudeau is the opposite. And of course, he's blaming Canadians for everything that's gone wrong. And this has been the history, his history as our prime minister from the very beginning. He cares nothing about our country. I don't think he cares about anybody except himself. And I don't think he's quite done. I think that he still will try to hold on to power, but I think he's dug himself in so deeply that he's in the proverbial quicksand. And if he tries to wiggle out of the situation that he's in at this point, I think he'll just dig himself in deeper.
Can members of his own party turn on him now?
They have, and that was the key thing. A lot of this was triggered by Chrystia Freeland, who sort of operates as Canada's vice president. She's one of the forerunners who's going to try to take Justin Trudeau's place as interim prime minister. That would be about as disastrous for Canada as Kamala Harris would have been for the United States. The lady is a complete done. She's a World Economic Forum puppet, close friend of George Soros. In fact, wrote his biography. So she would be terrible for the country and grossly unpopular. The only good thing about that is that that would only drive the unpopularity of the Liberal Party even deeper, because she's as hated and vilified nearly as Trudeau, and so that would secure an election result. The most dangerous thing for Canada is if the Liberals could find somebody who would appear as more of a moderate, who would take over the reins as prime minister in between now and an election, and that might swing some voters to the Liberals, although that's hard to imagine. I can't really find the words for your viewers and listeners to describe how incredibly unpopular Justin Trudeau is. In my lifetime, I've not known anyone, any Canadian at any time, who is as unpopular, any public figure who is as unpopular as Justin Trudeau is right now.
Let me take a quick break. ReturnToReason.com. That's Leighton's website. There it is, ReturnToReason.com. Through there, you can also tune into his podcast, Grey Matter podcast, as well. And of course, I know maybe you could go online to the Miracle channel and watch the podcast as well. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, and perfect timing, and always an honor to have with us Leighton Grey. He's the host of the Grey Matter podcast, which is on Canadia's largest Christian network up there, the Miracle Channel. By the way, Leighton, when's your book coming out?
Well, we're aiming for Easter. That's our target date. So
Okay.
hopefully the next time I come on your program, I'll be able to talk more about the book,
Okay.
and you can help me promote it.
All right, good for you. Congratulations, and hang in there, buddy. You'll get it published. His website is returntoreason.com. I have 3 questions I want to squeeze in here what time I have left. How bad is inflation up there?
Very bad, as bad as it is in the United States. In fact, it's worse because on top of inflation, the inflation that's being caused by just having too much money chasing too few goods, we have a much higher degree of taxation in our country. In fact, we have a national carbon tax, which impacts just about everything. And so really, I mean, financially, economically, it's been just a disastrous situation in Canada for many years, and it has to change.
Okay. Is there anyone in the sidelines over the next several months that could be your Trump or your Reagan?
This is a great question. There's a man named Pierre Poilievre, who I would say during the COVID-19 pandemic, you would have described him in American terms as a Democrat or perhaps even a rhino. But he's undergone a very interesting transformation. And I believe his party, which is now set to win the largest majority in Canadian history, has been riding the wave of Trump's popularity in the U.S. And he's been picked up as something of let's say, a deliverer for Canada from all of this mess. He was recently on the Jordan Peterson podcast and on the Daily Wire network, and that interview received over 50 million views. And he seems to be gravitating more closely to Trump's position on many issues. Now, if he means it and if he follows through, that could be a great thing for Canada. But I think in the long term, what Canada needs is somebody to come from outside of the political process, the way Ronald Reagan did, the way Donald Trump did, the way Javier Milei has in Argentina, and that will make the biggest difference. I don't think Mr. Poilievre is going to be the answer. I think he's going to lead us to a deeper answer.
All right. So what do you think God is doing in Canada?
And great question. C.S. Lewis famously wrote that hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. I think that perfectly describes where Canada is at this moment. The deepest problem we have in our country is we've lost our faith. We've lost our faith in ourselves. We've lost our faith in our institutions, in our leaders. But most of all, we've lost faith in God. You know, we're living in a country that has the most permissive abortion laws in the quote-unquote free world. We have people who come from all over the world to Canada, including Americans, just to get abortions. And then on the flip side of that, we have something called MAID, which is medical assistance in dying, that is killing 1 in 20 Canadians. It's the 5th leading cause of death in Canada. And Justin Trudeau was trying to expand that even into the realm of making it available to teenagers. So taking abortion, for example, which, by the way, is the #1 cause of death worldwide. 45 million babies were killed in 2024 alone. To put that into perspective, that's 3 times the number of persons, soldiers, sailors, and civilians who died during all of World War I. So we have a mass extermination that's going on throughout the world. It's being executed, and Canada is the battleground for it. So I think the deepest thing, the most important thing that has to happen in Canada is we have to restore God at the head of the state. We have to find our faith and our spirituality. And of course, God has a plan for Canada. I believe this, I know this. And we are seeing signs that people in Canada are coming back to faith. And I think that is going to be the key. That's going to be the focal point. That's what's going to make the biggest difference. Not changes in the economy, not voting certain leaders out. It's getting back to the basics of life, the most important things, the core of life, which is our faith in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
That's so well said, Leighton, because, you know, as you look at the big picture, and now you have the resignation of your prime minister, kind of a loose resignation, but nonetheless, it's a resignation. It's possible, highly probable from my point of view, that the remnant church in Canada prayers are being heard.
Yes, I know this is true. And I would say I had this experience, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Perry, but I had the experience of being at a Trump rally in Henderson, Nevada, right before the election. I was in an arena of 20,000 people, and I was in a circle of roughly 250 people who were holding hands and praying that Donald Trump would win the election. And they were saying that, and they were talking about God. J.D. Vance talks about God. RFK Jr. talks about God. Donald Trump attributes the survival of his first assassination attempt, it's dreadful to say first in that sentence, he said it was miraculous, and he meant it in that sense. And so I'm convinced that what MAGA is a made in America response to globalism. And when I say globalism, I essentially mean an evil, anti-human, atheistic, demonic movement that's aimed at destroying 7/8 of the world's population. That's aimed at destroying everything in God's great creation. And I think what we're seeing in Canada is we're seeing part of the wave. We're surfing the wave of MAGA, which again is a made in American response, but it's sweeping the world. It's having impacts here in North America, in Japan, Serbia, Hungary, around the world. People are sort of coming around to this understanding. We have to reject all this globalist rubbish, and we have to get back to the truth in life, and that's the way, the truth, and the life.
Is wokeism an issue up there as big as it is here?
Huge. This was everything that Pierre Trudeau was about wokeism. He described himself as a rank feminist. He passed laws which restricted our freedom of speech, restricted our access to news. Just an oppressive regime the Liberals have been. They've abandoned every single governing principle of their party since it was founded centuries ago back in Britain. They've become essentially what the Democrats have become in your country, or had become under the Biden administration: intensely corrupt, very woke, Marxist in focus, anti-human, and especially anti-Christian, because of course the unique feature of Christians is that we do not worship the state. We are beholden to a higher power, a deeper truth, and that is why we have always been the enemies of Marxists.
This is amazing. It's encouraging. I realize your struggle. It sounds like to me God is moving. Maybe not as fast as we'd like, but in his way. You know, we're looking at this re-election of Donald Trump. I said this on the other day, and I kind of got pushback on it, then finally it went away. But at the end of the day, if we truly believe that God raises up and takes down leaders, then I thank God for President Biden, because we needed to go through that to get the real second term of Donald Trump. Otherwise, yes, it would have been soft.
Yeah, well, coming back to that meme that I mentioned about, weak men creating hard times, and that's sort of the cycle. And when you read your Bible, and you should every day, that this story is not new. This is a story as old as time. It goes all the way back to Genesis, where God will select people for a certain purpose, and there's suffering. Life is not for Christians. Life is not an easy ride. And I'd recommend, just put in a plug here, people who haven't seen the new Bonhoeffer movie, if they want to see what it means to be a Christian and the cost of discipleship, watch that movie, and you'll understand it very vividly.
One last question: as a lawyer, has the integrity of the law in Canada been damaged?
Absolutely. Of course, the real problem with Marxist ideology is it brings in this concept of social justice, which means neither. Actually, it's not just. It isn't very social. It's actually antisocial. But just to give you, not to put too fine a point on it, our prime minister has been 6 times. That's 6 times actually convicted of criminal offenses in Canada while he was our prime minister. These are violations of parliamentary ethics. This is unprecedented. No prime minister has ever been found in violation of these ethics. And every other parliamentarian who has ever been found convicted has had to resign in disgrace. And so he has flouted the law. He's appointed all of our judges during the 9 years, and there are thousands of judges that he's appointed, had to be not only members of the Liberal Party of Canada, but donors. If you weren't a donor, you had no chance of being a judge. And he stalked our Supreme Court with basically political liberals. So there's a lot of damage that has been done to our institutions. And of course, the justice institution is one that leftists attack particularly because they see the legal system as basically an administrative arm of the leftist state. They don't see it as an independent judiciary. They don't see the benefit of that because, of course, the benefit of it is to the citizenry because it's a check on abusive executive power, which people like Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau and Barack Obama like to use at their whim.
Leighton, you're a delight. You're an inspiration. Thank you. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out his website, returntoreason.com. Check out his podcast, Grey Matter Podcast, and then we'll keep you posted as it gets closer to the releasing of his book, and we'll talk about that in future visits. Thank you, my friend. It's good to see a smile on your face. Hang in there, buddy. There's good days ahead for you. All right, God bless.